5, 4, 3. Hi, everybody. Dugroz here with Dugroz Reports. Welcome to my Saturday morning live stream. Today is Saturday, March the 7th, 2026, and I'm reporting live from my house. Good to see each and every one of you on board this morning after a week off last week. Boy, 2 weeks feels like a long time doing some family stuff, and I'll come back to that in a few moments because that will be discussed a little bit in the theme of the day. So who's on board this morning? I see John from John's Credit and Travel first. Mike Newland is here. How you doing, Mike? Says I'll always be second behind John on this live stream. Arizona Fox, also known as Mojo, says, good morning, everyone. Happy early spring break. Happy early spring break to you. Thank you. And one Kevin P became a YouTube channel member. Well, thank you so much, Kevin. Celebrate. I appreciate that. Kevin knows that I have one membership level. It's called a Dugroz Diehard. It's only $3 a month. You can cancel anytime. And with that, you get early releases to videos. In fact, I have a members first video out right now that only members can watch. Everybody else has to wait till next week. I also have 60, more than that, members only videos that will stay members only forever. So if you want to join, binge watch those, then cancel, go ahead. I don't mind. Just find the join button on any of my videos and click it. And we'll have a little celebration like we do with Kevin. Mike reminds everyone to hit the like button on your way in, please. We're up to 28 people already. And I agree. The more liking, the more commenting, the more we drive the algorithm. DEM raising the hand is here, and man, Doug's something is pretty consistent these days. 1, 2 to 5 minutes later. I am often a little fashionably late for these, aren't I? Mike Newland gifts 20 Dugroz Reports memberships. Whoa, thank you so much, Mike. Mike is a very generous fellow, and I really appreciate that. That's just as good as a $60 super chat. So let's all do it together. Celebrate. Thank you so much, Mike. And I'll go over some other ways you can support my channel just a little later in the video, but anything helps, whether it's a gifted membership, a super chat, super sticker. John says Mike, and DEM says Mighty Mike strikes again. Travel Earn Repeat says, good morning, Dugroz and chat. Kevin Hawthorne's here from Lakeland, Florida, and Luke's Points of Miles is here. Says, Doug, let's go to Santiago, Chile. You want to go together? All right, let's work something out then. Thank you for being here if you're one of the 36. And if you're someone watching this after the fact on later today, tomorrow, Monday, driving to work, whatever. Obviously, if you're driving to work, you shouldn't be watching, just listening. If you would stop by the comment section sometime and make any kind of comment. If you're not sure what to say, just say Rove, R-O-V-E, because that's the theme of the day today. My very first Rove booking. Rove is a portal where you can book hotels and other things and earn points that are transferable or can be used there. It's kind of a newer thing. It's been around for, I believe, a little less than a year. So let's talk that over. Stay tuned later in the video, probably 30 to 45 minutes down the road, we'll be getting to that. John says, Mike's the GOAT. Prove me wrong. Absolutely. However, we start every Saturday live stream with the same sort of thing. I call it Dugroz data points. We just kind of go around the horn in the world of points and miles and see what's going on that caught my attention. And we'll start with this. Doctor of Credit lets us know that Chase added Wyndham as a 1-to-1 transfer partner. I mean, they were already a transfer partner with Capital One and I think Choice Hotels, or not, excuse me, I think City. Don't quote me on that. Now Chase too. So you've got some options there. And then less than a week later, after adding them, they also decided, also hot tip Doctor of Credit, that they're going to give a 30% transfer bonus to Wyndham. This comes out to 1-to-3. This transfer bonus doesn't excite me all that much because Wyndham frequently sells their points for somewhere between 0.7 and 0.8 cents per point. So we're already getting kind of close to that 30% discount level. But of course, with buying points, you also get to earn on your credit card while buying them. So you could, at least in theory, cash out your Chase points for a penny each and then use them to buy Wyndham points. But this would be a good option for things like topping off. Let's say you need 20,000 points for a Wyndham redemption and you have 19, you just need to buy 1,000. It's really a good option. I probably won't be doing this because I'd rather use my Chase points for other things, but in some situations, it could definitely be a boon. Let's take a quick look here. Zizus Christ is on board and drops a W to feed the algorithm. Thank you. And Calderds is here. Rove is the thing they use to explore Mars, right? Explains why their prices are astronomical. I see what you did there. Travel Earner says, Dugroz, is it safe to say people don't care for Wyndham too much? The hotels are decent to me. It is safe to say that in terms of that's sort of the impression we get in our little points and miles community. People tend to bash on Wyndham. I think the issue with Wyndham is that there's such a variety. Right here in my town where I live, there's a Days Inn that it looks like it needs to be torn down. It's not very good at all. That's a Wyndham property. And then, I stayed at like a Country Inn and Suites in Virginia once that was like beautiful, brand new, 5 stars, no complaints. A lot of people talk about Wyndham's like all-inclusive resorts in the southeast part of the U.S. and the Caribbean. So I just think there's a lot of variability. But yeah, Mert says, I'm to the point where I've got a decent base of knowledge and you're the only channel who does the research and gives me some in the weeds new knowledge. Others just tell me what I already know. Thanks. Hey, I appreciate that, Mert. That's quite a compliment. So thank you for letting me know that. That's what I try to do. I try to take points and miles to a little bit more of a higher level or go out in the weeds and explore something and think through things. Sometimes as I explore things, it leads nowhere, and sometimes it leads to a fun discovery. Dennis Dunn says, Doug, happy March. Oh, are you a fan of March, Dunn? Dennis, like, I don't know, St. Patrick's Day or something like that. Jake Loves Jesus is here. Good morning, Dugroz. Good to see you, Jake, as is, we already talked about John. Calder did tell a dad joke. Chili sounds intriguing, says John, and people saying hi to each other. More Dugroz data points, so we learned a little bit about Wyndham. Another hotel, this isn't even a data point, this is just an interesting thing I ran across today. Back in 2021, I stayed at the Hampton Inn in Wheeling, West Virginia, which has frequently been rated the best Hampton Inn in the United States. And I'm actually going back there later this spring. But the part that I found was interesting is for one night, I paid a total of $82.87. That same hotel, same time of year is now probably like $180 because I booked it using the City Strata Elites $300 per year hotel credit. We have to book 2 nights, and it was over $300. I think it was like $340 for 2 nights. So that comes out to about $170 each, something like that. And I just thought that was kind of illustrative of how everything has gotten more expensive. And that was only 5 years ago, April of 2021 to this April. But yeah, hotels are definitely more expensive than they were 5 years ago. Do you have a hotel going up in price story, or do you remember a really cheap hotel you got? So a long time ago, this is when I was first married, so like early 2000s, pre-2005, I would sometimes travel for work just around the state of Iowa and adjacent states. And in southeast Iowa, there's a very small town, kind of in that little nubby that sticks down on the bottom right side of Iowa called Donelson, Donnelson. And I stayed at a local hotel there, and I don't remember exactly how much it costs, but it was either like in the high 20s or the low 30s. It was like somewhere between like $28 and $35 a night. And I wish I'd known about points and miles back then, because they let me pay for it myself and they get reimbursed. And I turned it into the lady who handled the receipts, and she said, Doug, you stayed at a hotel that was like $32? Was it okay? And I'm like, it was all right. It wasn't great. A little local hotel. So yeah, what's the cheapest hotel you've ever stayed in? If you're watching after the fact, that's something you can put in the comments. You can tell me The cheapest hotel you've ever stayed in, not counting like, some sort of weird coupon, just like their actual price. DEM reminds John that Chile is nowhere near Iceland, and maybe there's Icelandic motels and Vikings there. Maybe. Could be a theme. I mean, we have Knights Inn here in the United States, and there's not really any medieval knights. Next, Dugroz Data Pointo here. This is just an interesting little quirk and really only applies if you live in Des Moines, Iowa, or are visiting Des Moines, Iowa. But my boys went to a minor league hockey game here, and they play in an arena that up until recently was called Wells Fargo Arena, and the naming rights got changed just like a few months ago. Now it's the Casey's Center. Yes, Casey's, the gas station with the awesome pizza, but they haven't updated it yet. When they bought stuff at the concession stand, when it was still pending, it said Wells Fargo Home Mortgage, which I'm like, honey, did we pay our mortgage a little extra or something with a credit card? But after it was done pending, it changed to Wells Fargo Arena. So if you're ever in Des Moines and you see a mysterious charge on your bank account for Wells Fargo Home Mortgage, you probably just bought something at the concession stand at the minor league stadium there. Minor league hockey and minor league basketball. Next up, Air France and KLM simplify their miles expiration policy. And this is hat tip to frequent miler. And I saw this in a couple different places. Thank you to those of you who pointed out to me. But the bottom line is that KLM/Air France Flying Blue from now on will have one validity date, multiple ways to extend your miles. And basically, starting May 4th, all miles will share a single validity period of 24 months. As it's being explained to me and I understand it, any activity will extend those miles. So like right now, I transferred in 1 mile from Wells Fargo several months ago to try to extend it, and it didn't. So most of my miles expire here. The 1 point from Wells Fargo expires here. In theory, after May 4th, if you transfer in any amount of points, it should extend the expiration date for all your miles. So that's definitely a welcome change. It used to be a problem with like different buckets, like this was attributed to flights, this was attributed to points, and it was like a rolling 24-month thing. So I'm very glad that that was, in fact, simplified. Next, Dugroz data point. So Rove, who we're talking about later in the program, the portal for booking hotels, flights, etc., has added Japan Airlines as a transfer partner. And this is kind of a big deal because up until now, up until maybe a year ago, nobody had Japan Airlines as a transfer partner. Less than a year ago, Capital One added Japan Airlines as a transfer partner, though not at 1-to-1. It's something really weird, like, I don't remember, 8-to-7 that comes out to just a little less than a point per mile. But now Rove is the first ever to have 1-to-1 transfers on a regular basis. And then to help celebrate that, they took it a little further and will have a 50% transfer bonus until March 31st. Every 1,000 Rove miles becomes 1,500 JAL miles. Now, I was hoping before today's show I would have some extra time and I could go over some of the sweet spots that come along with Japan Airlines, but I did not have time to do that. I know there are definitely some booking JAL's own flights. And then Frequent Miler found out that they have a partnership with Flying Blue, who we just talked about, KLM or Air France, where you can book those, even though they're part of two different alliances, with very low surcharges and fees. So normally you have to pay like $250 to fly from the East Coast of the United States over to Europe on Flying Blue. Those plus around $250. I think it knocks it down to like $50 or $60. A few more points, but that might be a trade-off that's worth it. So if you have a JAL sweet spot, by all means, speak up and let me know. I'd love to hear it. Luke thinks John will find a wife in Chile. New again, as someone who used to be a medieval knight, I'm triggered by your comment, but I guess I need to let it go. It was ancient history. There's your dad joke for the day. Juan Garcia's on board. Good morning, Doug. Late but here. Thank you, Juan. Juan in the MIA. Big time supporter and diehard, and I really appreciate it. Chad's Money Mints is here too and says, yo, Mike Newlands points out that there's 61 people on board, but only 17 likes. We can do better than that. Mi hermano Cesar Joel is here. Good to see you, brother. And also reminds everyone to hit the like button. We'll keep going on this this line of thinking here. We'll proceed with our Dugroz data points. Well, probably the biggest news of the last 2 weeks that I wasn't here to talk about, unfortunately, relates to Hyatt. Tip Doctor of Credit, Hyatt devaluation, 5 levels per category, and it's somewhere between a 20 and 37.5% base increase. So this is not great. We all know Hyatt has had an award chart for quite a long time. And we generally always thought of starting with, standard award, not off peak, not peak for category 1, as 5,000. And now that's going up to 6,000. So that's a 20% increase right there. It's becoming rarer and rarer to find a category 1 Hyatt. So I usually look for category 2s, which was 8,000 and is becoming 10,000 if it sticks with that standard, or what they will now call moderate price. So again, that's a 25% increase. Don't care for that. So with that, is that good math? 8,000, 2, 4, 6, 8. Yep, that's a 25% increase. Now, what they say with their evolved award chart is things like, well, we're going to have like these in-betweeny levels, whereas it used to be like 10,000. I don't remember. It was 3,500 originally for category 1 off peak. Now that doesn't exist anymore. The lowest is 3,000. The low is 4,500. The standard 6,000. The upper, in other words, like kind of peak, is 7,500, and the top rate or very peak is going to be 9,000. Almost doubled from the standard. Not quite. I guess you'd say that's more like a 33.3% increase, but still. If you were to ask me, do I like this? I would say, no, sir. I don't like it at all. I think that's terrible news, quite frankly, but don't know what we can do about it. So people saying hi to each other. Chad Pennycuff is on board. Howdy, Chad. How you doing? It's been a minute since I've seen you on a live stream. And John needs to make chili a priority. So more people saying hi to each other. And the Rewards Master's here. Hi, Dugroz. Good to be here. Good to see you here, Rewards Master. I'll try to have a little something for you towards the end of the show. I did briefly see that we cleared 70 people on board, so let's keep that going. Click thumbs up if you've not yet done so. I'll push ahead with my data points, though. Doctor of Credit tells us that Robinhood has announced a platinum credit card with a $695 annual fee. I listened to Matt Clausen's live stream on this subject while changing the kitchen sink faucet, which took a while, but I got it done. And what I picked up from it, although I'm not an expert, just picking up what he was laying down, is the only modifier that's any good is 5% cash back on dining. I think that's capped at $50,000 a year of dining spend. And of course, Robinhood doesn't have transfer partners, so this is just cash back. And then to make back that not $695 annual fee, there's lots of coupons. It didn't look like the kind of coupon that's going to appeal to me. I thought Frequent Miler had a fun way of putting it. Robinhood Platinum Credit Card Review. All of the coupons, none of the fun. But hey, at least it's made out of mostly real platinum. What do you guys think? I have to blow my nose right now. Give me a second. Thanks for hanging in there. Some people saying hi to each other. Another way to support my channel, I shouldn't say another way, I haven't really got into it, but a way you can support my channel is with the tip jar. So if you look down in the description box of this video, and yes, you can click on that while we're watching a live stream, there's a link to the tip jar, and that would be if you want to support me in 2 ways. One is just with a lower fee. YouTube will confiscate around 35% of everything you donate if it's a super chat or super sticker or something like that. But if you want to just support me directly, go down, drop the tip. They only take like 2 or 3% off the top. So I get to keep a much larger portion. Then another thought is if you just want to contribute anonymously, you can do that. You don't have to put your name in there. So if you want to just be super top secret and really humble, you can do it that way too. And I thank those of you who do. Other ways you can support my channel. You can become a Dugroz diehard. That's a channel membership, only $3 a month, cancel anytime. I have over 60 members only videos right now. And as Uncle Luke often says, I won't be offended if you join for 1 month, binge watch, and then cancel. Maybe you'll like it so much you want to stick with it. I have one out there right now, in fact. You can also drop a super chat. Just put some money there. I don't think anyone has done that so far. No, we have a new member. We have donated memberships, but we don't have any super chats or super stickers. If you donate exactly $149 as a super sticker, I'll give you 1,000 Dugroz points also. And we'll celebrate any donation of any amount. Anything helps out. 80% is reinvest in this channel. 20% goes right back into my family budget because this is kind of like a part-time job for me. It takes a fair amount of hours each week. And then lastly, there's one other way you can help support my channel. Well, did I mention donating memberships? But another way you can support my channel that's a little more on the unique side is by getting a good night of sleep. And you might think to yourself, but Doug, how does sleeping help you? Well, my favorite mattress is the Sparrow Signature Hybrid by Nest Bedding, as pictured here. In fact, this is a bed that I reviewed over 6 years ago on my original YouTube channel. There's a picture of me looking 6 years younger with a lot less gray in my beard. My wife and I have slept on this for 6 years. In fact, you can go out and find a video of me reviewing it more recently, looking a little more my age. This mattress has a lifetime renewal exchange, a lifetime warranty, and a risk-free 360-night trial period where you can either exchange it or get a full refund. It's a great mattress. I think it has a perfect balance of support with comfort. And if you use the code in the description box, that does benefit me. Now, you can't use Rakuten and mine. You have to decide who you're supporting. But that would get me a little something to help support the channel. I put a link to my Refer a Friend for that down below, and the video. Even just going out and watching the more recent video also helps the company know that I am a good promoter of their product. So even if you're not interested, I would appreciate it if you just go out and watch the video. So think of that next time you're ready to get a new mattress. Let's move right along here on this. So there's an update from Doctor of Credit about Capital One moving their credit cards to the Discover network. We know that Capital One has already moved their debit card. And a few months back, I tried to withdraw from an ATM at a small regional bank and was unable to because they don't support the Discover network. And lots of people are afraid they're going to run into that overseas as well. Well, the update that they have is that Capital One has confirmed they started putting some new cards on the Discover network. Premium cards, business cards, and co-branded cards are not affected at this time. And basically, they released some sort of official statement. We've started originating select Capital One accounts on the Discover network. This is an important step, accelerates scale, enhances competition, blah, blah, blah. They don't say giving us more money, but we all know that's why they're doing it. Some people are seeing credit card applications advertised as Discover, while others are still being advertised as MasterCard. It appears to be a staged rollout. Hat tip, Doctor of Credit. Now, a couple people pointed this out to me. I think Mike Newland might have been one of them. Don't quote me on that. But with inspiration, I went out to the Discover site, ironic, the Capital One site, and faked an application for all 3 of their Saver cards. And you can see here up at the top, it still shows MasterCard. I didn't actually apply. I just went to the step before applying. The Capital One Saver for Good Credit also shows MasterCard. And even the lower tier one, I think they now call it the Saver One, which is like, your credit's so bad you don't get a sign-up bonus, and you have to pay us a $39 annual fee. Even that one still said MasterCard. So for me, I really like corn. But also, if I had picked up a new Discover card, it would have still been on the MasterCard network. But this is this portends of what's coming, that all of these non-premium cards will eventually be pushed over to Discover. We just don't know when. And I can say for me, I am not looking forward to the day when my Saver card is forced onto the Discover network, mainly because of acceptance outside the United States. There it is. There's mine right there. Catching up on comments here, I have a donated membership from Tom Graber. Celebrate. Thanks, Tom. Just as good as a $3 donation. And then Mike Newland drops $1.49 as a super sticker. Thanks so much, Mike. Celebrate. Let's get you 1,000 Dugroz points. Let's see. I have some in my pocket right here. There you go. Thank you so much. And in terms of miscellaneous comments, people saying hi to each other, and I guess that's about it. All right, well, I'll keep going. 75 people on board. If you have joined in the last 10 minutes, please click the thumbs up button. What else do we need to know? Well, we should probably know this piece of info. Doctor of Credit reports that there has been some issues on the Citi Strata card, Strata Elite, related to their splurge credits. Now, splurge credits are $200 a year at places like American Airlines and Best Buy. And basically, if you read the article, what they're saying is people who opened the CSE as a new product are having no problems whatsoever. And that was my experience. Didn't have any problems last year or this year. Actually, haven't tried it yet this year. Tucking that away. Those who product changed in, some got their splurge credits, but others haven't. In fact, there's people who made a purchase in December of 2025 who still haven't got it and have called and complained. And they keep saying, oh, yeah, we'll get it fixed. We know about it, and nothing happens. Eventually, somebody filed a complaint with the Consumer Protection Bureau, and I guess that got Doctor of Credit's attention and Citi's attention because they did respond and made a public statement saying they're aware of the issue and it should be resolved soon. They released a statement directly to Doctor of Credit. So that's good. It's kind of lousy that from Citi's point of view, they have to have like a public company call them out before they decide to make it right. But Citi gone Citi. Despite people saying like, oh, I haven't had any problems with Citi's customer service. It's like, where there's smoke, there's fire, you know? New Again says, I'm glad I don't have any Capital One cards other than Venture X, and that Robinhood Platinum is hideous. I'm with you on both points. I wonder if there will ever come a point where Discover is able to do something like Visa Infinite. We'll find out. That would hopefully be at least 5 years down the road. Texas Dowg is here and says good morning. And Amaya Kareem says, thank you for the membership. So thank you for whoever donated that. And then Amaya Kareem also donates $2. Celebrate. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Your patronage is not soon forgotten. We'll keep on pressing ahead with Dugroz data points here. Is this the one I just did? That's the one I just did. So I need a different one here. Let's go down a row. This is from a website that I came across somewhat at random called The Conversation, not one I normally check out, but there it is. And this story is actually from a year ago, but it says MasterCard plans to get rid of credit card numbers. We could be heading towards the end of cards, meaning physical cards. MasterCard has announced plans to remove the 16-digit number from their credit and debit cards by 2030 in a move designed to stamp out identity theft and the fraudulent use of cards. Basically, what they're saying is every token, every user will just have like a token assigned to their card, and every time you use it with tap to pay or have the chip embedded in your hand or your face or whatever, 666. You're going to just get a new token every single time you present that, so you won't even have a credit card number. First of all, I wonder how that will work for those of us who have lots of different cards, if the odds of messing up are worse. Secondly, those of us who love strategery and being a little creative, and we love Staples prepaid Visa gift card sales and MasterCards, I wonder how that'll work. You know, those cards that don't even have chips in them. So interesting times ahead. We'll just have to kind of keep an eye on that. Hey, we talked about Wyndham earlier in the program. Let's talk about it again. Wyndham is doing Member Month. Earn 7,500 points for every 2 nights, plus an extra $7,500 for card holders. I actually did something like this last fall when I did a points run, or an experiment, I guess you say, to northern Iowa and southern Minnesota to look at the foliage. I think that was 6,000 each. This one's even better. So you would end up with 15,000 points. This might be mattress run worthy because although it doesn't happen a lot, you can find Wyndham properties for like 40, 50, 60 bucks a night. Let's just say you found one that was $50 cash, 2 nights, that's $100, and you get 15,000 points if you have one of their cards. Now, this is assuming Wyndham credits it properly. They did last time, but when I tried it the very first time, like 3 years ago, they did not. But if so, 15,000 points, well, that's enough to get you one night in a 1-bedroom cottage in the United Kingdom, which would easily be worth more than $100. Sometimes with Wyndham properties, because the way that they handle their award stays, it's just a fixed amount, 7,500, 15,000, or 30,000. When prices go up, the points rate will stay the same. So like if there's a Major League Baseball game going on in Pittsburgh and you want to stay at a Wyndham near Three Rivers Stadium or something like that, it might jump up to $500, $600, $700, but the points price stays the same. If I'm remembering correctly, Uncle Luke, are you still on board? I don't know if it was Wyndham, but you went to like a concert or a baseball game or a football game or something like that where you took advantage of something like this, whether it was Wyndham or Choice, I don't remember. But if you are on board, just remind us of that concept. Maybe worth doing, maybe not worth doing. Some people saying hi to each other. George Rommel comes in the door and drops, boom, $2.99 super sticker. Celebrate. Thank you so much, George. I really appreciate your patronage. All right. What else do we have? Oh, I just got a refreshed tip jar, and I see Juan from the MIA dropped a $3 tip in the tip jar. Celebrate. And Juan says, happy pre-daylight saving time. Ooh, is that tomorrow? So let's see. It's spring, so we're going to spring ahead. Luke is still here and says, I did a Choice Hotel for an Astros game. It was a Cambria. Did you hear them hitting the trash can with baseball bats from where you're sitting? Sorry, can't resist. Okay, yeah, so the concept is the same, even though it was a different hotel network. We're getting pretty close to the end of the Dugroz data points here. Only a couple left to go. Frequent Miler lets us know that Vacations by Marriott is out with a promotion. You can earn 25,000 bonus points on a 5+ night stay. That could be pretty valuable. Now, I don't use Marriott a lot, but I do have the Bonvoy Boundless card. I got 3 free night certificates about 6 or 7 months ago. And then the idea is 6 or 7 months from now, I'm going to transition into a Ritz-Carlton card. So I'll probably have at least 1 free night certificate every year. I'm not a big just book all on cash kind of guy, but if you are and you want to do a Vacation by Marriott stay, you just have to stay 5 nights, pay cash, you get 25,000 bonus points. If you're going to do that anyway, definitely worth looking into. Now, maybe somebody can remind me here. Vacations by Marriott, is that sort of like your homes and villas equivalent where it's like condos or townhomes sort of, or is this more like a vacation package? Maybe somebody can help me remember that. PDX, click the wrong button. PDX Beach is here. Good day, Doug. I'm out walking the dogs. Hey, great time to listen. Combine dog walking with listening to me. And for PDX, he's on the West Coast, Pacific Northwest. So we're talking 8:00 a.m. Ian says, dang, sorry for being late. Hey, I would take late over not at all. And Zizus Chris says L ad. Assume you mean you got an advertisement, and that's a loss. You don't like the advertisements. 521 Taipei says, to Mike Newland, thanks for the membership. I now have access to all the secrets in the Points and Miles game. Celebrate. Awesome. Well, maybe if you really like it, you can come back around and join as a member on your own. Mike says that sounds like a timeshare, to be honest. That's another possibility. What I'm wondering is like some of these timeshare type things. I know if you take advantage of one of their special offers, like, hey, come to Branson for only $200 for 3 nights, you get 100,000 Hilton points. You have to listen to a presentation. But if you just book it directly, like through the Marriott app, do you still have to listen to the timeshare presentation? I am vehemently opposed to timeshares. My parents had one, and it ended up being a terrible burden on both them and me. Don Kim is late night watching the WBC. Okay. I don't know what WBC is, but that's awesome. And Ziza says, Rozzy, do you have any desire to return to Puerto Rico anytime? Yes, I do. In fact, I'd like to bring my family someday. I really like the food there. Brad 0570 says, I was West Des Moines last week for work, stayed at a Hilton Tapestry collection property, which was very nice. Well, if you stick around for the main event, Brad, I'm going to talk about a Tapestry collection property. Is there a chance it was the exact same one? Maybe we saw each other in the lobby and didn't even know it. Where was I? Okay, we've got one more Dugroz data point here, and it is from the good people at Chase and Aeroplan. You know I'm a fan of the Chase Aeroplan card. I've got it right here, in fact, if you've watched this channel for any length of time. And they are back with a very good sign-up bonus. Earn 85,000 Aeroplan points after you spend $4,000 on purchases in the first 3 months. No tranches, just a regular old sign-up bonus, but a very good one. Now, Aeroplan is one of the few cards that does not have a refer a friend program. I would have so many Aeroplan points if they did, because I have people ask me about 4 or 5 times a year, hey, you got a refer a friend offer? I'd like to support you. Sorry, can't. I'm sorry. So just go to the Chase site and apply, or maybe go to Frequent Miler and support them. They may have one of those I'm a big time YouTuber links. 85,000 points. So if you take that times, not 850,000, times 0.0125, because you can use boom, pay yourself back on the Aeroplan Caravan at 1.25 cents per point. That is $1,062 in value if you use it that way. Even if you net out the annual fee, we're still talking $968. That is a good deal. I don't think it's going to get a lot better anytime in the near future. So I would strongly consider that one. Well, we dropped from 75 people down to merely 70. Oh, well, but we'll keep going. The faithful are here. We are now 40 minutes into the program, and we've reached the time that is called the intermission or the biology break. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to go to the bathroom, and you're going to hear some copyright-free music. While I am gone, please don't leave. Just stay on board. When we come back, we'll do the theme of the day, my miniature update on Rove. And while you're gone, I'll go ahead and give you a topic for discussion. How about that? Well, I already kind of mentioned it. Like, if you had a really inexpensive hotel stay, not talking like coupons, just you stayed at like a really small hotel or a Roach hotel, tell me about your funniest story from an inexpensive hotel. All right, well, let's go ahead and start now. Back in about 2 minutes. I'm back. Thanks for the 71 people who hung in there. I really appreciate it. I just realized I had one Dugroz data point that I forgot. Sometimes I do Dugroz Eats, and this one's a little different. So I needed a quick snack, so I stopped at Hy-Vee and bought the Bumblebee Snack on the Run chicken salad and crackers, which I've probably seen my whole life, but never actually purchased. It was like $1.50. And I have to say, that is actually a pretty good snack. You've got chicken salad sandwich in here. You can also get the tuna version, spread on the crackers. They give you a little tiny spoon. And yeah, I would take that with me. Like if I'm out doing a rip trip and I'm going to get breakfast for free at the hotel and not have supper till 5 and I don't want to stop, just throw one of those in my backpack. Do you have a favorite like on the run type of thing that you use for when you need to get some quick protein or whatnot? All right, let's catch up on comments here. Fargonaut says, now that Hyatt is partially nerfed, what's the best use of chase points? I don't know if this applies to everyone, but for me, it's transferring to Aeroplan and then paying myself back at 1.625 cents per point functionally. JP Knowledge is here and says, hey, everyone, happy Saturday. Good to see you. Sally Beery's here and agrees with me. The best use of chase points is to get them over to Aeroplan. Nugian tells the story. The cheapest hotel, a Wyndham near the Miami airport. It was like $80. I used the United $50 hotel credit. That's pretty good. Dong Kim says, yes or no, green grapes and chicken salad. I would lean towards no, but it's not a deal breaker for me. All right, well, let's go ahead and dive into the theme of the day here. I'm going to take a quick hit on my asthma inhaler. We'll make this full screen, and then I will dive in. Sometimes I split these up into videos after the fact, so bear with me here as I do a little kind of start, restart thing. 5. Ooh, that didn't turn out right. 5, 4, 3. Today's theme of the day, my first foray into Rove Miles. So Rove Miles is sort of like a portal of their own that has their own rewards program, including transferable currencies. And they have a unique feature that is loyalty eligible booking. So let's just talk about this a little bit here. You'll see on the screen here that I had a robe and it was a very fancy stay. This was at a Hilton hotel, and I'll come back to that in just a few moments. The why. So I wanted to do a one-day staycation with Mrs. Dugroz, my player 2. We were both kind of under the weather back around Valentine's Day. So we still hadn't celebrated Valentine's Day, so I decided to do that in style. For those of you who don't know, we live in the greater Des Moines area right here in central Iowa. So didn't want to go too far from home, but just get away, leave the kids at home, let the two of us get out and do something. I also have a $50 Hilton credit to use before the end of Q1 on my Hilton Surpass card with no other stays planned. So you may or may not know this, but the Hilton Surpass card gives you $50 per quarter to use at Hilton properties, either on the rate itself or on food and beverage, etc., etc. By the way, if you're watching this after the fact, I will put my link to the Hilton Surpass card in the description box. And if you want to pick it up that way, that would support me. The where. We stayed at a place called the Revel Hotel, which is a Hilton Tapestry Collection hotel. You'll see the Google review link here. 4.6 stars on Google. That's really good. Des Moines, Urbandale. You know how lots of hotels will put the big city, then they'll put the suburb after it. It's actually in Urbandale, which is a suburb of Des Moines. Des Moines kind of over here. Urbandale's over here. And there's a picture of me standing out right next to it. I've actually driven by this hotel many, many times. You can see it from Interstate 8035 and the big circle on it. I've always kind of wondered about it, and I decided, hey, that looks like a really nice hotel. And you know what? It was a really nice hotel. In fact, here is my Google review. Everything was great. Clean, comfortable bed, and quiet. It had all the little things like free shampoo, a mini fridge, and good, steady air conditioning. A continuous fan is a lifesaver for sleeping well. It was put together well. The breakfast was very nice and free. There was a large group staying, but the staff was on top of keeping the food well stocked. Bravo. This is a good mid-range hotel, and my status was honored, specifically $15 per person, food and beverage credit. So I gave them a 5 on room service and location. The only slight negative is that the shower door in our room was transparent and went directly into the main room. That's just silly. Now, this was a king room. I don't know what 2 queens do. It was just my wife and I, so not a huge deal. However, when our kids were younger, it would not be unusual to stay in a king room with a 4 or 5-year-old on a cot on the floor. And do you really want, like, your 6-year-old son watching mommy take a shower? Do you really want your 5 or 6-year-old daughter watching daddy take a shower? Probably not. So, can we just end this trend of transparent shower doors? Just a good old-fashioned regular shower curtain is fine. One of those foggy glass ones, that's fine. I don't get it. Nearby activities, the Iowa Machine Shed is a restaurant right next door. I didn't take any pictures, doggone it. Traditional Iowa food such as pork chops. I actually got like a pork chop sampler with 3 small pork chops in different styles, and that was really good. Not the best I've ever had, but pretty good. Here's some pictures of the hotel itself. The bed, the little nook where you can put your shoes on. There's the aforementioned transparent shower door. Free shampoo, body wash, all that kind of stuff. This is actually like the perfect level of hotel for me. I don't want to be way down at the bottom here in a Days Inn or a Super 8. Although I'll take a decent Hampton Inn now and then. If I want just a little more luxury going up to this level, where it's, really nice, really clean, just a little fancier. They had decorations various places around the hotel that were all Iowa themed. But it's not so fancy that it's like missing things you want, like free breakfast and the mini fridge and that kind of stuff. Sometimes hotels get too fancy for their own good. So this is right in that mid-tier sweet spot that speaks to me. On the left, we got free bottled water. Now, whether or not that was a function of our status or everybody gets it, I'm not really sure. And then on the right, you'll see the towel hangers, a cow's head made out of metal, which, again, that's in line with the theme of the Iowa Machine Shed being in Iowa, all those kind of things. We like cows here in Iowa. The reason I say I don't know if it had anything to do with my status, when I booked it, it was actually one of those like handicapped accessible rooms. When I arrived, I said, hey, I don't need a handicapped accessible room. Just give me a room on, the top floor, or if there's an upgrade. And he gave me a preferred room, which just means it was on the top floor. Not a full-blown upgrade, but because I have gold status, which comes with the Hilton Surpass card. I will now pause and catch up on comments here. Oh, there's not a lot of comments to catch up on. Mike Newland says, if Rove added Hyatt as a transfer if Rove added Hyatt as a transfer partner tomorrow, would that make Rove Miles more valuable than Bilt points? Kind of. I would say they'd be equal because Bilt has a credit card, so you can earn that way. Rove doesn't have their own credit card. I know what they're going with, but I kind of wish they would in some ways. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate that. And again, just a reminder, support my channel with a thumbs up, a super sticker, a super chat. I really, really appreciate it. Dennis says free water was with your gold status. It should be, yes. But what I'm wondering is if everybody gets it, because they didn't know what room I was going to stay in before I got there. And we checked in, went right to the room, and it was there. They didn't have time to like quickly move water into the room. DEM thinks no, that Bilt would still be more valuable. I'll continue with the main event here. Resuming in 5, 4, 3. Late at night, I got a to-go item in the restaurant side the hotel, a chocolate cake with some ice cream. And they do have complimentary robes, which was fancy, just fancy enough. So I sat in my robe on the bed eating the ice cream while my wife read a book. In the morning, they had breakfast, and when I got there, I have gotten in the habit of always asking, how does your free food and beverage credit work? Because at the DoubleTree in Puerto Rico, they did not explain to me that, so I assumed I could use it on supper, but their rule, which is stupid, is you can only use it for breakfast. So I just asked the front desk clerk, how do I use my food and beverage credit? And he said, well, you're gold, so you get $15 per person. With 2 of you, that'd be $30 a day. And it'll just come right off the top of anything that you order from our restaurant here, whether it's room service, breakfast, supper, doesn't matter. And I said, oh, so I can use it on supper tonight or breakfast tomorrow. And he said, well, breakfast is free, so that wouldn't make a lot of sense. I'm like, thank you for telling me that. I wasn't sure if it was free or not. A lot of times with those mid-tier hotels, it's not, but here it was. So that was great. So that's why we got some to-go items from the restaurant and bar inside the hotel. Now, we had already decided to eat at the machine shed, which was next door. Partially because my wife has some dietary restrictions, and the restaurant inside the hotel had a very small menu. I mean, it was like one page, 2 or 3 appetizers, like 2 or 3 salads, maybe 5 main dishes. So there just wasn't a lot to choose from. So what happened is when we got back from the machine shed, I ordered dessert. My wife ordered a to-go salad for the next day to put in the mini fridge. So that worked out great. That's how we used our food and beverage credit. But breakfast was free, as you see here on the screen. We got all the standards: eggs with cheese, bacon, sausage patties. Excellent. Every breakfast should be required by law to have either sausage patties or sausage links and bacon. That should be mandatory. Some fresh fruit, some milk and stuff. They even had oat milk for people that can't handle dairy. So that was very much appreciated. And then here's a view of the interior of the breakfast area and lobby. I put the Sioux Falls Stampede logo here in the corner because these young men here play for the Sioux Falls Stampede. That's a minor league hockey team. They were in town to play the Des Moines Buccaneers. This is it's not part of the NHL minor league. It's the NHIAL or something. I don't know. If you're into hockey, it's the people who play for the Anderson Cup. So it's a minor league, but it's not the minor league. And when I checked in, I was like, if you could put us far away from the hockey players, that'd be great. And they said, don't worry. Anytime we have a big group, we put them on the first floor so you can't hear them up above. And I'm like, excellent. Great idea. So no problems there. We had a very quiet stay. And here's the lobby down the bottom right. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get to the numbers because that's what we want. 80 people on board. Please click the thumbs up button and drop a super chat or super sticker if you've not yet done so. This is what it would be if I had booked directly with Hilton. The cash direct rate would have been $148.38 for the one night, including taxes and fees. And that's pretty reasonable, but it is a random Friday in February where nothing's going on. Now let's take a look at Rove and what it would cost to book through Rove. And you've got the info on the screen. First of all, the price, $161.28. So it's a little bit more than booking directly with Hilton. And we'll go over the differences and whether or not it's worth it in just a few moments. A few things on this screen that I want to point out, though. One is you'll see at the bottom, it says this booking is eligible for Hilton Honors loyalty benefits. So Rove has 2 kinds of bookings. They have a direct through Rove booking, which earns more Rove points, usually 10 or 12 Rove points, something like that per dollar. And then the other category they have is loyalty eligible, where you earn fewer Rove points, but you get all of your points, status, loyalty benefits, etc., through the chain itself. So over here, you'll see there's a box where I can type in my Hilton account number, and you can even check a box so that it remembers it for future reference, which I did. And then up here, it says free cancellation before da-da-da-da-da. And this is the exact same cancellation policy that you had booking directly through Hilton. So kind of hit all the things that are important to me. It does get Hilton eligible benefits. I can type in my Hilton number and free cancellation. So we are comparing apples to apples here. This is the member cancellation rate compared to the Rove free cancellation rate. So looking at the numbers here in the top right, you'll see I will earn 806 Rove Miles on this stay. And it says it'll be credited by April 11th. It does take 6 to 8 weeks for Rove Miles to post with your hotel stays that are loyalty eligible because they say they have to verify with the chain, and that can take a little while. So Once again, we said the cash direct rate was 148 and change. The Rove rate with the same room type, refundable, $161.28. The difference, Rove is more expensive by $12.90. So that begs the question, not begs the question, a statement first. You earn 806 Rove miles you'd not earn otherwise. So Hilton points are the same either way, whether I book through Rove and it flows through, or I book directly with Hilton. Either way, the Hilton points are the same, or slightly better with Rove only because you are paying a little bit more. Couple comments to catch up on real quick here. Let's see. Stinky Monkey Baby's here. Yay, Dugroz Saturday mornings, credit card sermons. Thank you for being here, Stinky Monkey. New Again says, wow, non-lactose milk and a robe. That's an elite property. That's how I feel. And Mike says, are transferable currencies like Rove miles actually less safe than airline miles because they depend on multiple loyalty programs that can devalue independently? I don't think I agree with that, Mike. I think I would say in a multitude of points you can transfer to, there is safety. Like, let's say that you have an airline mile program like Alaska, and tomorrow Alaska decides to increase all their reward flights by 20%. That is a hard 20% devaluation. There's nothing you can do about it. Your points are trapped over at Alaska. Whereas with Rove, at least you have some optionality. You can transfer to Lufthansa. You can transfer to Japan. You can use it in their own portal. So there's less of a risk of the hammer dropping all at once. Yes, your favorite program might get devalued, but at least there's other options. So I would say transferable currencies are actually a little bit better if I'm picking up what you're laying down. All right, continuing on. With the main event. In 5, 4, 3. So I'm going to take a quick side note here about Hilton points earned just to show you that I did earn full Hilton points, got everything I would normally get. So first of all, points from the stay were 4,610 points. And you can see that up here in the top right-hand corner. Here's a screenshot of my invoice. This consists of the normal base points and the 20 or 80% bonus I get for being a gold member. There's also a promotion going on right now called the 2026 Points Unlimited promotion, where you get an extra $2,000 on this stay that I would have gotten whether I booked through Rove or Hilton, either way. And then the points from the card, my Hilton Surpass, it's 12 points per dollar. And you'll see down at the bottom here, the total spending was $162.28 once the charge posted. I'll come back in just a few moments and explain why it was $1 more than what we saw at the time of booking. And that earned 12 Hilton points, 1,944. So you put those together, I earned 6,554 Hilton points. Or you could think of it, for every dollar I spent, I earned 40.3 Hilton points. That's pretty good, actually. That's got to be worth at least $3. I'm being silly there. Okay, yes, Hilton points have devalued. I think it's worth a little more than that. Okay, really? Probably worth somewhere around $32. I'm going with the half a cent per point. And yes, I know there's a lot of times you don't get the full half cent per point, but I usually do if I'm shopping around at least a little, especially now that I have a way to do somewhat rewarding cash stays. You could also argue an advantage of around 275 more Hilton points for Rove since it cost a little more, and that would be worth about $1.37. In fact, I think you should, because what we're saying is if I go to Rove and pay their rate, here's what I get. If I go to Hilton and pay their rate, here's what I get. So yes, I think you should take that into consideration. By the way, I will mention when I booked this on Rove, within 10 minutes of me putting that into Rove and booking it, it showed up on the Hilton app on my phone. I'm pointing to nothing. It showed up on the Hilton app on my phone. It was just like I made a cash booking from the app and the Hilton website point of view. There was no difference whatsoever. Chad's Money Minutes says this. I think he's asking Mike's Newland's question about transferable currencies being inherently less safe. Chad says their intrinsic value is higher by virtue of their flexibility, but an understanding of airline alliances particularly can be a hedge against an individual inflation hit on any one partner program. That's a good point. Knowing how to use your points is just as important, if not more important, than knowing how to earn them. Bill Wright says the last price comparison I did with Hilton was with United Hotels, same price. Brad says we were not at the same Tapestry collection. I was at the Rewind. I haven't even heard of the Rewind. There's the Revel, which I was in. Then they have another one right next door called the Renovo. I suppose I need to look for the Rewind. They must like our hotels here in Des Moines. Texas Dog says, Chad sounds like an analyst with Wall Street Journal. Yeah. Jazz Fan is here, says, morning all. How you doing, Jazz Fan? And Chad says, lol. Dennis says, I made a killing with one-night stays with hotel points. Nice job, Doug. Thank you. I appreciate that. Especially if you traveled for work and could get reimbursed or something like that. That doesn't apply to me. I actually made this booking with my YouTube revenue because I felt like this is kind of like research. So this is one of the rare ones I'm not going to do the whole like out of my travel savings account. So you guys help pay for this. And I think it was justified because it's research. I'm presenting it to you, the viewer. So yeah, this is a business expense for me. That $162, that'll be deductible. Continuing on with the main event here in 5, 4, 3. Status and benefits were also honored. So if we look in the top left here, we see my Surpass card. Sure enough, that $50 Hilton Surpass credit per quarter did post. It shows as the same date, but it'll actually take about 2 or 3 days after it's done going pending to show, and then it'll backdate it to the same date that you did it. Down the bottom left, I got the water. Whether or not that was everyone or just my gold status, I don't know, but it was honored. And then if you look at my itemized bill here, you'll see the Revel Lounge. This was our to-go food, $31, and the food and beverage credit was $30. That's where that extra $1 of spending comes from. The reason why I spent $162 instead of the $161 Rove quoted me. Rove does base their awards on the time of booking, not what the final bill was. And yes, I used that on my to-go molten lava chocolate cake with vanilla ice cream, which looks really plain, but oh man, it was really good. So here's a question this young lady wants to know. So what did I really get for paying an extra $12.90? Well, thank you for asking, Mrs. Stock Photo. I got 275 more Hilton points, which I mentioned earlier because it cost a little more, and that's worth $1.37. They verified my card at the counter. So at the time of booking, I didn't even have to put in a credit card. At least that's my memory. I don't honestly remember for sure, but it doesn't really matter because when I got to the counter with Hilton, I could have changed a different credit card if I'd wanted to. The guy just said, are you still planning to use your American Express card ending in da, 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 da? And that was already my Surpass card. I must have been the one I had on file with Hilton. So I just said, yep, that's the one I want to use. But I could have changed to like my Aeroplan card if I'd wanted to do it that way instead, which would also be a great strategy. So I earned 806 Rove Miles, which are worth question mark. And it's 5x on loyalty eligible bookings. So like I said, you get 10, 12, occasionally more points per dollar. Well, Rove calls them miles. You get 10 to 12 Rove miles per dollar spent on non-loyalty bookings, drops down to 5 on loyalty bookings. So you don't get as much on the Rove side, but you get all your benefits from Hilton or IHG or Marriott or Hyatt. I know they have those. They probably have others also. I've seen Best Western on there. So makes sense. I'm sure their kickback is smaller on these, but at least it's an option. So if you take $161.28 times 5, that's how we got the 806 points on the Rove side. Here it is showing in the Rove portal after I completed my stay. Pending points, 806. And again, I've heard it takes 6 to 8 weeks for those to post. So here's the question. How much are Rove miles worth? And we have to look at different options because there are different ways to use Rove points. So this clip art young lady is pointing to a Courtyard by Marriott in Pensacola, Florida, 1.6 cents per mile if you're redeeming it towards hotels. And here's two others. I just chose Pensacola randomly because I've been there before, but I also went out and looked in like somewhere in New England, somewhere in Southeast Iowa. I think I searched Donaldson, Iowa, which I mentioned in my story earlier. And they're all kind of right in that same neighborhood. You'll find some 1.3s, some 1.4s, some 1.6s, but the average is very clearly right around 1.5 cents per point if you're using Rove Miles to book hotels in their own portal. So as I mentioned 3 weeks ago, if you're doing like a circular thing where you're like, I'm going to book all my hotels through Rove and I'm not going to worry about loyalty eligible. I'm just going to get as many Rove points as possible. If you're doing that, somewhere between every 6th or 7th hotel would be free approximately. How much are Rove points worth on flights? So again, clip art fella is pointing to 1.39 cents per mile. Got a couple randomly searched flights here on American that are 1.39. Delta 1.44. Interestingly, they just added Delta very recently. Before then, they only had 2 of the big 3. And that's pretty much in range. I tried some domestic stuff. I tried some business class stuff. Again, slight variance, but it was always right around 1.4 cents per point if booking flights in their own portal. And then the big one, some of you are probably wondering about, how much are Rove Miles worth on transfer partners? Well, they have 14 different transfer partners now that they've added Japan, and I'll read those off. Aero Mexico, ALL Accor, Cathay Pacific, Etihad, Finnair, which is an Avios. So as Matt says, an Avios is an Avios. Once you get access to one, you get access to all of them. Air France and KLM Flying Blue, Hainan Airlines, Air India Maharaja Club, JAL, that's Japan, Lufthansa Miles and More, Qatar, Thai Airways Royal Orchid, Turkish, and Vietnam Airlines. So some of those very common, like Air France, Finnair, Qatar. Some of them not so common, like Air India Maharaja and JAL. So the answer is somewhere between 1 and 10 cents per point, or as this very handsome clip art fella's doing, I don't know how much they're worth. It all depends on how you end up using it. So let's look at a few examples of that. But before I do, I will make sure I am well caught up on comments here. Going to check the tip jar to see if there's anything other than one. There is. So an anonymous person gave $3 in the tip jar. Tipper, thank you very much. Celebrate. Thank you, anonymous tipper. I appreciate that. Just a reminder again that you can drop a super chat or super sticker. We're a little light on those so far. So if you like this type of breakdown, I would appreciate, even $1 or $2 is totally good with me. Mike says, is the theoretical maximum value of Rove Miles actually irrelevant if most users redeem through the travel portal? Here's how I think of it. And I did a members only video on this recently. Average point valuation is kind of useless because it depends on how you use the points. So yeah, most normies probably just book through the portal, but we're not normies. So I would say the theoretical top value could be very applicable. And I'm going to try to get to a couple examples here in just a few moments. Jazz Fan says, I booked my honeymoon with Rove and my Aeroplan card. Seems like a very good redemption to me. I agree. That seems like it could be a very good redemption. Since you've already booked it, Jazz Fan, I've heard people say, if you're booking through the Rove portal, it always codes as hotel, no matter what you're booking. Can you confirm if that was true, that it did show up as a hotel? DEM says, should any of us be concerned with Rove's longevity? I think even Built has more of a stable footing these days. Yeah, of course you should be somewhat concerned. I like what we're seeing, and obviously they have some sort of venture capital or private money investment in them, hoping they grow. But so far, they're making a lot of good moves, and it doesn't look like they're doing anything non-sustainable. I mean, in my case, they overcharged me by $12, so that's sustainable. I mean, they get a little bit of profit off of me. What would be non-sustainable would be if they were undercutting Hilton by $12 instead of overcharging and still giving all those benefits. So I think we're okay. And then I actually have another thought, but New again mentioned it. Rove has been transparent that so far they don't make a profit. I'm going to hold off at least until next year. Too many options right now. I get that viewpoint. You know, in this case, if I lose out on 806 miles, it's not that big of a deal. But I want to see what they have to offer. So I'm gonna head down that path. And it's very questionable footing Built has. They have a lot of nerf switches to press to devalue programs. A lot. That's true. I think Rove has fewer ways to devalue. They have some. I mean, hotels could drop from 1.5 on their redemption side to 1.25 or something like that. But so far, it's been fairly steady. All right, catching up on the main event here. Excuse me. 5, 4, 3. So how much are 806 Rove miles worth? And obviously we've got flights for the least value, their portal for the middle value, transfer partners for the most value. But I'm going to just say, for the sake of what we're doing here, let's stick with 4 hotels and say 1.5 cents per point. I think that's probably how I would be most likely to use Rove if I leaned into it. Again, here's an example of a random hotel in Pensacola, Florida. So I'm going to take the 806 points I earned times 1.5 cents per point, and that's $12.09 in value. And then I'm going to add in the extra $1.37 in Hilton points that were due to the higher rate I paid, and add those together. We've got $13.46 in value above and beyond what I got with Hilton normally through a direct Hilton booking. In other words, what I'm saying is if you just compare if I'd made a Hilton booking to a Rove booking, I got an extra $13.46 in point value by booking with Rove. Now, clip art lady wants to know, not really wants to know. Let me try that again. That was a terrible transition. 5, 4, 3. So this clip art lady is going to tell us that using Rove, I overpaid by $12.90 and I came out with $13.46 in extra points. That's a net benefit of 56 cents. So by using Rove, I came out 56 cents ahead. Well, let's call it a draw. Or in the words of the Black Knight, all right, we'll call it a draw. If you get the reference, you get the reference. So why even bother with Rove if it's a break-even proposition? Well, first I should mention there wasn't really any harm since this was a loyalty eligible booking. I got all my stuff. The only harm would be like if Rove goes out of business in the next 2 months and I never get to use those points. If you're booking direct, there's a lower floor. So the difference between booking with Rove in this case and booking with Hilton in this case was a $12 cash rate. I saved $12 and that's worth something. I could put that $12 in my travel savings account and use it for something later on, but that's sort of a floor value. The difference between the two, $12 will always be worth $12. So do you want to take one in the hand or two in the bush kind of thing? Now, if you're booking with Rove, it will have a higher ceiling. To be more specific, you might get a 2 cent per point hotel. There weren't a lot, but I did see one out there during my looking, and it wasn't really cherry picked. It was more like I go to a city I'm thinking of going to and just look through the options. Or you might get an overseas business class flight and get way more than 2 cents per point. If you're more on the rewards master end of the scale, you'll almost certainly get better value. Channeling my inner rewards master, those points are super valuable. So here's some other considerations. If you're not doing loyalty eligible, Rove has some independent / boutique hotels. Now, 3 weeks ago, I found out they don't have all of them. All of them. That one in Trinidad, California, they didn't have, for example. But I looked up some examples that are slightly cherry picked. They're only cherry picked in this sense. I went to like, here's 3 different cities I want to go to or would think about going to. And then I just looked at the best independent hotels in that area, not necessarily in terms of quality, price, rating, but in terms of the value that you get on Rove. So Southeast Iowa, I looked up and came up with the Nauvoo Vacation and Condo Villas. This is actually in Nauvoo, Illinois, which is a major stop on the Mormon Trail. If you're Mormon or know of the history of the Mormons, this is a significant city to them. And apparently they have a vacation and condo villa there in town. And you can see here that you would earn 13 Rove miles per dollar for 2,231 points. And to use Rove miles to book in the portal, this costs 11,000 miles. So if you do the math, this divided by this, after every 4.93 stays, you get 1 more for free, or basically stay 5, get 1 free kind of thing. A little better than that 6 or 7 I said earlier. Here's an example in Yarmouth, Massachusetts. I think I was going for Nantucket, and Yarmouth is a town nearby. The Harborside Suites, an independent hotel. You would earn 21 miles on the Rove side per dollar if you're doing their non-refundable, and 17 if doing refundable. Interestingly, refundable is less expensive, but you earn fewer miles. So on the refundable side, on the non-refundable side, after 2.55 stays, you get 1 free stay. And if you're doing refundable after 3.45 stays, you would get 1 free stay. So stay 3, get 1 free, or 4th night free. Stay a little under 4, get 1 night free. 5th night free. So this is sort of like, you know how we get really excited about things like IHG having 4th night free, Hilton having 5th night free, Marriott having 5th night free. This is sort of like if you want to do your own 4th night free or 5th night free, you could do it in the Rove portal. Now, again, not every hotel is like this. I am doing a little bit of cherry picking with this. Hey, we're up to 80 people on board. Please keep on clicking that thumbs up button. I'd appreciate it. And then if you're not looking at boutique, but you're just willing to stay anywhere, take this into consideration. Rove has some smoking multipliers. So let's say you're going to go to Colorado Springs, Colorado. Again, one of the places I've been before. I'd like to go back. There's a nearby place called Garden of the Gods. You can stay at the Days Inn by Wyndham, near Garden of the Gods. Now, fair warning, this isn't the top rated Days Inn in the country. I think I looked on Google reviews and it's somewhere in the mid 3s, like 3.3, 3.5 stars. So not the greatest, but if you're willing to do it, first of all, it's only $86 per night. You're earning 23 miles for every stay, 2,193, but it only costs 5,000 to book the place. So at that rate, after every 2.28 stays, you get 1 more free. So stay 2.5, get 1 free, or it's almost like 3rd night free, not quite. Again, you have to be willing to stay at a Days Inn that looks like maybe it was built in the 50s, but maybe you're willing to. I mean, if you're out at Garden of the Gods doing work for the DOT as a contractor and you don't get in until late and you just need a place to sleep, maybe you'd be okay with that. And then your work reimburses you and you get to use some awesome points later on. And then with only a small amount of cherry picking, this is the best one I found on short notice. This is the Somerset Lofts Ascend Hotel Collection in Somerset, New Jersey. I think this isn't too terribly far from New York City, just far enough to be annoying. You earn 29 miles per dollar. And this is the refundable rate. 4,266 points earned, and it costs 7,000 miles to book. Obviously, depending on time of year, If you book in February, they might give you more miles, and you want to redeem in June, it might cost more miles. But based on, kind of the same closed-in space, after every 1.64 stays, you get one more for free. So you have to stay about 1.5 times, you get a free stay. So that's like every 2.5 night free, something like that. And spending $136.62 to earn 4,000 miles. Let's think about that a different way. Of the rewards programs on there that you can transfer to, Flying Blue with KLM and Air France is one that I would be somewhat likely to use. There is a flight from Des Moines, Iowa to Detroit, Michigan that pretty regularly costs 7,000 miles. So if you think of it, you stay at this $100 and some hotel twice, you have a free flight from Des Moines to Detroit. Now, when I said $136, I didn't note the taxes and fees, which is about $60. So put together, you've got just a little over, I'm having a brain fart here. Let's say 140 plus 90. So that's around $230, something like that. Spend that twice, so you're talking $460 on the hotel. Also, you have a free flight to Detroit on top of that. Now, obviously, you have to pay taxes and fees on the flight, which are going to be around $20, something like that. But that's pretty good. Or if we want to expand that a little more, that flight normally costs $289 in back of the plane. What do they call that? Basic economy. It's actually a little more. It's like $340 if you want to do main cabin. So if you think of it this way, $460 for 2 nights, including taxes. And then even if we go with this figure here, $289 in value, that's like 289 divided into 460. That's like a 63% return on spend, basically. If you use it with Flying Blue miles to book this flight to Detroit, that's not too shabby. Or maybe you want to take it a little further. I did a quick search on seats.aero, and I found this flight from Houston to Amsterdam on KLM for 25,000 points if you did economy, 30,000 points if you did premium economy. So 30,000 divided by the 4266 you earn, that comes out to just over 7 stays. I know this is backwards, but trust me, that's a 7. So yeah, dropped my calculator. So you stay at this moderately janky Somerset loft property 7 times, you get a free premium economy flight to flippin' Europe. That's not too bad. What's funny about this hotel is it says Ascend Hotel Collection, which has to do with Choice Hotels. I couldn't find anything whatsoever on the Choice website that even acknowledged this hotel existed. So I think they're just saying that, or maybe they used to be part of Choice and dropped their affiliation and just kept it in the title to attract people in. So yeah, it's a little shady. If anyone's ever been to the Somerset Loft in Somerset, New Jersey, raise your hand and let me know. That would be kind of funny. But on paper, that is some tremendous value. And then I looked up a couple of the places I was talking about. Like there's that restaurant/hotel in Bloomfield, Iowa, close to where I grew up. In my comparison from 3 weeks ago, it wasn't this good, but it was like, 10 or 12 miles per dollar, something like that. So it was a pretty decent, right in that every 6th, 7th hotel stay is free. So I think the best use case for Rove is basically like if you want to be a free agent and you kind of want to build your own 5th night free, 6th night free program, you can do that. My thoughts. So here's the question. Will you be roving in the near future? Why or why not? I know New Again said, I want to wait and make sure they're a stable company. And I get that. If you do want to sign up for Rove and you've not yet done so, you get 500 miles just for signing up. And I get 500 miles if you use my link. So there's a link in the description box for me. Full disclosure, if you want to support me, do that. If you want to just get as many miles as possible, Frequent Miler has some sort of deal right now. So you'll want to go to Frequent Miler and use theirs. I think it's either 1,000 or 1,500. So it just depends on how much you want to support me. I also get 5% or 10% of all your points earned for the next 6 months, something like that. So kind of good. I think Rove is promising. What do you guys think? That's the last slide. This is something completely different. So yeah, That's it. That's the theme of the day. I hope you enjoyed it. Now I'm going to catch up on comments here. Let's see. Oh boy, I've missed quite a few. We talked about Jazz fans' honeymoon. We talked about longevity. Talked about transparency. Mert says, I would consider transferring points out as soon as they post so you don't get mesa'd. Yep, I think you have to have 1,000 point minimum, but if I remember correctly, once you have 1,000 points, you can transfer out any amount. So I got my 500 from the sign up. I'm gonna get 800 in April, so I should have over 1,000. So I could transfer that out to Air France or wherever in the very near future. QC Man gifted 1 Dugroz Reports membership. Celebrate. Thank you so much, QC Man. Just as good as a $3 super chat. Thanks for supporting the channel. Mert says, currently not making a profit, so that's unstable by definition. True. I feel like they'll turn a corner, but maybe that's just me. Just to clarify, I have no affiliation whatsoever with Rove. Other than that refer offender link, I get jack squat from them. I'm just hoping it works. Gold Homer's here and says, hello from Anchorage, Alaska. I'm visiting for the start of the Iditarod race. Oh, yeah, that's their famous dog sled race. I feel like in 3rd grade, I watched a cartoon about that. Was it Balto or something like that? Mike Newland says, yes, by definition, not making a profit is unsustainable. And that's definitely true. But hey, Amazon didn't make a profit for the first 10 years or something like that. Mike says, dog sled race, that's so cool. Enjoy your time there, Gold Homer. Bill says, I'm taking away from your valuation that I should want to do it. I shouldn't want to do it. Okay. Rewards master. Oh, QC Man says I had a good rewards master imitation. Those points are super valuable. Yeah. LN330 is here, joining late. Happy Saturday, all. And drops a $1.49 super sticker. Celebrate. Appreciate that. Let me find my 1,000 points for you. Oh, it's in my stapler. There you go. There's 1,000 Dugroz points for you, LN. Mike says, can Rove Miles realistically compete with ecosystems like Amex, Member Rewards, Chase Rewards, or built without exclusive high-value partners? Depends on what you want to use. You know, I think it's a good option for people who are in the just pay cash crowd. So the people who want to just, you know, save their super valuable points, Rewards Master, for flights. So they're going to go to Houston and spend one night at an airport hotel. I think for that use case, it could be a decent option. They don't have to be exclusive. And actually, they do have one exclusive partner and one near exclusive partner. They have Lufthansa, which they are the only US-based program that has them. And I know if you're using Lufthansa to book Lufthansa's own flights intra-European, like if you're flying from Munich, Germany to Rome or something like that, they will occasionally have super saver awards where you can use like 88 points plus 20 euros to book a economy flight or something like that. So Lufthansa can be very, very valuable. And then their semi-exclusive one would be Japan Airlines. They're exclusive in the sense of they're the only ones that are 1-to-1. Capital One does transfer at less than 1-to-1. LN says, built data point. All of my purchases on the Palladium card are rounding down on points and built cash. For example, on a 99-cent purchase, I only earned 1 point and 3 cents of built cash. Wouldn't that actually be rounding up to $1? LN says, so more like up to 2 points on every purchase. I think what you mean is like, let's say that you, oh, wait, no, because it's supposed to earn 2 cents per point. So you would think the 99-cent purchase would double to $1.98 and then round off and you would earn 2 points, but you didn't. So yeah, I see what you're saying. Oh, that is a ripoff. So basically, on the whole dollar amount you clear, you earn 10 cents or 2 cents per point, but on any change above that, you only earn 1 cent per point. Come on, Bill, that's so cheap. Shara Vicio says, points have always rounded down. What are you going on about? No way you this slow. Well, first of all, you don't have to call them slow. But secondly, I would say that's not necessarily the case. Like Chase doesn't even round. They just give you the full amount of points. I'm pretty sure that's true. I'm actually going to look right now to verify this. Bear with me one moment. I need to find something that's a weird amount. I have all these like that ends in perfect zeros. All right, yeah, here I have a purchase on my Inc. Business Unlimited, and it was a $40.57 purchase, and it earns 1.5 cents per point, and I earned exactly 60.86 points. So yeah, Chase doesn't round down. They give you the exact amount to the 100th place. New Again says the exact same thing. Built rounds down, unlike other programs. Jake Loves Jesus says, sorry, to clarify, I meant if I'm low on points, I go based on prices, not miles. If I missed a previous comment, I apologize. I hear what you're saying. Ellen says, apologies, that was already common knowledge. I'm new to Built. I've only had the card for a few weeks. Mike says, Built is 1-to-1 with JAL. Okay, I stand corrected. I apologize. Mike says, the point you're not getting until April, was it refundable? Maybe I missed you saying that. Yes, it was points eligible and refundable. So yes, if you book directly with Rove, if it's non-refundable, you get the points immediately as soon as you make the purchase. If it's non-refundable through Built portal, you have to wait until after you have your stay. And if it is loyalty eligible, then it's 6 to 8 weeks after your stay because they have to verify it with Hilton. Thanks for your comments, everyone. Okay, we're going to transition into the community tab questions. So every Friday, usually somewhere around 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock p.m., I will post a post on YouTube, and it has a picture or 2 or 3, and you can guess where the picture's taken. You can also ask me anything. So we're going to go ahead and jump into that right about now. Sorry, I have to pull it up here. It's taking a few seconds. And while I'm doing that, you can take a look at the picture that I posted here. I posted 3 pictures to guess where they are. There's one, me standing in some sort of archway. Here's some sort of window, stained glassy looking thing. Here's a picture of some Catholic cardinal from many, many years ago. So we're supposed to guess where the picture was taken. Dennis Dunn says, just a reminder, Dugroz math always works. Well, it is the math. Whether it's worth doing or not, that is kind of sort of a different thing. All right, so on the community tab question, Bob Travels always makes excellent guesses, and Bob's guess was this. You are at St. Joseph's Catholic Church in Stratford, Ontario for a destination wedding. You're going to catch a Shakespeare play while you are in town. It does look kind of Englishy, but nope, this is not there. You said Stratford, Ontario. That would be Canadian. I guess it looks vaguely Canadian, but no, it's not. Mike Newland made a guess. He said The Secret Guardian, and I think he's referencing this middle picture here, so we'll pull that one up. The Secret Guardian is as follows. The story goes that the large iron lantern hanging to the left isn't for light. It's a containment unit for a miniature sun. If the windows ever detect an intruder, the lantern opens and the tiny sun emits a politeness beam that forces the intruder to sit down, drink tea, and explain their life story until they become too bored to commit any crimes. Yes, no, actually, that's not it. But hey, I like the story. That sounds like something from a Legend of Zelda game. Dad on a Mission guessed this picture was taken at Christ Church College in Oxford, United Kingdom, which is a great guess. Many of you know I have been to the United Kingdom, so I can see why you would guess this, but no, that is not it. But Oxford does have lots of little colleges. All right, well, we'll get the correct guess in a few moments, but first, Dad on a Mission, the second guess. You're wearing the same shirt. I'm wearing a slightly different shirt than the one I have on today, but I like that style. See, this one has some red stripes in it and is mostly green. The one I'm wearing today has white and green, no red, but similar. Guys, I only own like 10 shirts, and I like to wear what I like to wear. All right, first question here is from Luke D. Johnson. Dugroz, if you were forced to close every card in your wallet except for one for the rest of 2026, which one are you keeping and why? Oh, that would stink so bad. because I don't want to do that. But I think I know the answer. I think it would be the City Strata Elite, simply because I earned 100,000 points and those points are pending. And we know when you close a City card, the points on that card are lost. So I've got 100,000 points coming, like 20,000 points earned on the card. So at least I would have 120,000 City points to use. I can still transfer to American Airlines, but man, boy, I would be really sad to lose out on my Aeroplan Caravan. I would lose a lot of points there. I wouldn't lose points, but I'd lose my preferred way of using them with pay myself back. I'd be sad because my Freedom Flex is getting 7 points per dollar on restaurants right now. I just got that retention offer in my altitude reserve. So yeah, there'd be a lot of sadness. Down on a Mission says, 0 for 2. Well, no problem. Nick asked this question. I'm not sure if you've mentioned this, but what's your view on flight portal booking, specifically domestically with a family? Even if the price is the same, I'm still iffy on booking a flight through a portal in the event something goes wrong. Hotel portal bookings I have more confidence in. That's kind of weird because for me, it's actually kind of the opposite. I have more confidence in portals for flights than I do portals for hotel. I know that's ironic given the whole thing we just went over. Now, a loyalty eligible booking really wouldn't be an issue. When I flew down to St. Louis, not last fall, but the fall before, so fall of 2024, I stayed at a Wyndham property. I booked my stay direct with Wyndham using points. The person who walked in right before me, who was in line ahead of me checking out, they ran out of rooms and they walked them. They sent them to another hotel and said, we'll pay for that other hotel. Now, fortunately, it was like less than a block away, and give you like, I don't know, a $10 food and beverage voucher or something like that. But yeah, they booked through a third-party portal like Expedia or Orbitz or something along those lines. So I'm like, but then I stepped up and said, I have a reservation also. And they're like, how did you book? And I was like, I booked through Wyndham using points. Like, oh, okay. Well, then, yes, we have your reservation. What's your name? So obviously, if they overbook for whatever reason, like let's say they have 100 rooms and 3 of them have a water leak, so they have to walk 3 people, they're going to walk the people who booked third party before they walk the people who booked directly with their own points or directly through the hotel. So that's something to keep in mind. But now I'm going to come back around to the question you asked about how iffy I am. I'm getting more and more comfortable with booking through portals for flights and stuff. I don't know. I just am. I feel like most of the stories we heard, the horror stories of people who had problems where like they booked through, let's say, the Chase portal and then their flight was canceled and Delta sent them to Chase and Chase sent them to Delta and they both said there's nothing we can do. I felt like those were all COVID era stories, or at least 95% of them were. If any of you have a story of booking through a portal after COVID was no longer a problem, so let's say January of 2023 or later, if you have a problem where you booked a flight through a portal and there was a problem because it was a portal, let me know. I'd like to hear about it. Let me give you an example. For when we flew to England last summer for our repositioning flight from Des Moines to New York City, we flew on Delta. I booked through the Wells Fargo portal. It was on Delta. It gave me the option to put in my Delta frequent flyer number, which I did. As soon as I was done, it showed up in the Delta app. And even if it doesn't do that, like if you book through KLM or something like that, you can always type in your number and it'll give you your boarding pass and stuff right there on Delta. And when we got to the airport, they canceled our flight. They said it was weather related. To this day, I still think that's a little suspect because there was one tiny cloud over New York. I think they had a scheduling issue and fibbed so that it would not be eligible for, vouchers and those kind of things, because the lady was like, I'm so sorry, I've got bad news. Your flight was canceled. Nothing we can do about it. This is related to weather in New York City, so this will not be eligible for any vouchers or hotel stays. Like, she said it just like that. Anyway, point is, I had to book onto a different flight. So unfortunately, instead of flying direct from Des Moines to LaGuardia, which would have been a nice, comfy afternoon flight, get into our hotel before 9 o'clock. We had to fly from Des Moines to Atlanta, Atlanta to JFK, come into a whole different airport, got to our hotel around midnight by the time we Ubered in. So that was a bummer. But I was able to deal with Delta directly for the rebooking. I just went on my Delta app, chatted with an agent. They said, like, here's your 2 or 3 options. Which one do you want? We picked the one we want. She rebooked us right there. So even though it was booked through the Wells Fargo portal, when we had a flight cancellation, I rebooked through Delta and had no problems with the rebooking whatsoever. That's my thought, at least, for using a portal. At least if we're talking something pretty general, like, just a regular old ordinary flight. If you're doing something really weird, like merging 2 flights with 2 different airlines together, then my confidence level would probably go down. Looks like a few people had comments on that. Mike guessed I'd pick the Aeroplan card for the 1 card to keep for the rest of the year. The problem is Aeroplan's not as good if I can't pair that with the cards I earn Chase points on. I picked the CSE for my 1 card to keep because it's kind of self-contained and it already has 120,000 points waiting for me. QC Man says, direct domestic flights to the portal are perfectly safe and straightforward in my experience. James says, comfy is nice. Yep. And says, those stories are long gone. I'm assuming you're agreeing with me that once we got past 2022 or so, the horror stories are long gone. QC Man says, I booked through a portal for a direct international flight that got canceled due to weather. I was able to rebook with the airline directly, even though technically I was supposed to rebook with the portal. This was American. Good to know. So that's another success story. DEM says, my Saturday morning Nintendo Playmate is back. Awesome. Let's play pinball. Luke D. Johnson asks another question. Dugroz, how many premium cards hiked? Let me rephrase that. Dugroz, many premium cards hiked their fees in 2025. Now that those first-year renewals are hitting in 2026, which card do you think will see the highest mass cancellation rate? I thought about this a little. I think it's going to be the Chase CSR, the Sapphire Reserve, because they made it hard to use and hard to explain. It used to be like, if your neighbor says, yeah, I travel 10 to 20 times a year for work, I'd like to have some lounge access and some premium features. What card can I get? Be like, oh, get the Chase Sapphire Reserve, 1.5 in the portal. You've got your $300 credit. It's $550 in annual fees. Easy peasy. Just go for it and do it. Now it's like, okay, have you ever heard of the edit? Do you know what that is? Do you like, what's their other credit that's really weird? I can't remember. It's not Lululemon. I just think it's too hard to use. So unless I get a retention offer or for some reason they offer me $550 again, which I've seen for a few random people, their second renewal after last year was $550 instead of the almost $900. At that higher rate, I'm not going to renew. I'm going to downgrade to the Sapphire Preferred or do something else. So I think that's the one that's going to get the most mass cancellations. I did a video that was called something like, is the edit overpriced? And my conclusion was mostly no. I think 85, 90% of the time it was not overpriced. The problem is, with very few exceptions, the edit properties are expensive, especially if you want to travel in the summer, which, spoiler alert, anyone with a family wants to travel in the summer. It's like, yeah, sure, I get $300 off an edit property, but the property's $3,000. I can't afford that. So I think it's going to be the CSR. What do you guys think? All right, now we'll get to our one correct guess, also from Luke D. Johnson. Says, pictured the Salisbury House and Gardens in Des Moines, Iowa. And I said, doggone it, Luke, how'd you get that? I didn't think anybody would get it. So yes, this kind of looks like I'm in the United Kingdom, and I can see why you would think that, because it sure looks like the king's house of some kind. I'm looking that up right now here. So there actually is a place called the King's House, not King John's house. There we are. Okay. So here is a Wikipedia article that I'm sharing. You can see the King's House in Salisbury, United Kingdom. And boy, it sure looks a lot like the place I'm talking about here. So let me share this tab now. It's almost like which one's which. So the former is in the United Kingdom. The latter is right here in Des Moines, Iowa. So basically the story goes 100 years ago in the 1920s, there was some guy in Des Moines who got very wealthy by inventing pharmaceuticals and makeup for women. During the roaring 20s, he sold a truckload and became a multimillionaire. And he was an Anglophile who was enamored with this house in Salisbury, United Kingdom, which was one of the many houses owned by the king. So he decided to build his own version of this house and tried to copy it as closely as he could. So that's why it looks like I'm in the United Kingdom. The house was built in the one in England was built in the 1400s or 1500s. So it was built to look old, even though it's only about 100 years old. Because the dude was loaded, he bought a lot of collectible art. Like this particular picture, there's 2 known copies in the world. One is in Rome and the other one is here in Des Moines. So yeah, here's a couple of views. Someday when I have the first ever Dugroz Reports meetup, if I have it in Des Moines, we're all going to go here because it's right up my alley. It's local, it's Iowa, but it's also historical. Here's my wife talking to the guide, the tour guide. We got lucky. We were the only 2 people who did the first afternoon tour on that Saturday. Some more artwork and stuff and some modern looking chairs in a very old looking room. Here's a funny story about the tour guide. So as we were going through it, I said something being like, yeah, we're kind of into history, or I am more than my wife. She's into art and that kind of stuff. There's also a lot of art in the house. So as we're going through things, he's asking questions and we're getting all these references, and you can tell the tour guide's excited. Tour guides like people that are somewhat educated on the subject. So he's like, have you guys ever been to Salisbury in the United Kingdom? I was like, well, we've been to the United Kingdom twice. We've not been to Salisbury, but we've seen other stuff like it. And he's like, oh, well, do you know about Henry VIII? Yeah, we know about Henry VIII. Have you ever been to any manor houses? Like, yeah, we've been to a manor house. We went to the old treasurer's house in York, England. Like, oh, yeah, it's kind of similar to that. So it's like, you've done that. And then actually, now that I remember it, the painting of the dude is not in Rome. It's in Vienna, Austria. So he says, have you ever been to Vienna? And I was like, yeah, actually we have been to Vienna. Huh, what a coincidence. And then he's like, have you ever been to the Schönbrunn Palace there in Vienna? And I'm like, yeah, we've been there too. And I'm like, I felt like, of course we've been to Vienna and the Schönbrunn Palace. Jeeves, who hasn't? So this tour guide thought my wife and I were massive world travelers, when really it's just by coincidence the 2 times ever we've been outside the United States as a family, we went to 2 of the towns that he referenced. So I just thought that was kind of funny. He probably thinks I make $500,000 a year or something like that. So yeah, Salisbury House, Des Moines, Iowa. Good job, Luke D. Johnson. You get 1,000 Dugroz Reports points for your correct guess. There you go. All right, I'll catch up on comments and then we are done. Okay. QC Man says your example is similar to mine. Rebooking, even though I went through a portal, was seamless with American Airlines for me as well. Great. J3 Carlos says, I would think having a loyalty account with an airline should make a difference if booking through a portal. Agree. And all of us should have, accounts with American, United, Delta, Southwest, even if we're not collecting their points, just so that you have it, James Wynn says, he, Lululemon, and edit. QC Man says, I agree with the CSR. Normies love that 1.5 in the portal. Points boost just isn't the same. And I've heard it's kind of shifting now till where, first of all, a lot of them are 1.86 cents per point on their points boost, even though they kind of made it sound like it would be a guaranteed 2. It's not. And a lot of the flights that were domestic for a couple months, now it's turning into the place where only business and first class are getting the points boost. Just kind of disappointing. James says, you got to rob a bank and then you can afford an edit property. New Again says, overbooking is part of travel provider's business model. And yes, third party are at the end of the line. Rarely do I not book cars direct for that reason. That's a good point. I don't always, but mostly book my rental cars direct too, mainly because I just want to have the best deals possible. Like Auto Slash is hard to beat a lot of the time. RemGB says, I joined late. I'll catch up with the rest of the video later. Thank you, Rem. I'm going to come back to New Again's comment here about rental cars. I generally think about rental cars in terms of demand. Like I try to predict and guess when demand will be high. So like when I flew to the Houston Bush Airport on the last or second to last day of January and then went to Galveston, I booked my rental car using the Capital One portal because I had a $100 coupon to use before it expired in a year. And my thought was the odds of Houston running out of cars on the last weekend in January is pretty small. Now, in July, a lot more likely. That's part of the reason I like to travel at off-peak times when I do my 2 solo trips a year. Once in April, like make sure you're clear of spring break. And then again in October. First of all, the weather's beautiful. Secondly, kids are in school, so there's less family travel, that kind of stuff. If I'm booking a rental car in, 4th of July weekend, I'm more likely to not use the portal. Although I'm a little hypocritical because when we went to Washington, D.C., I did. But I also often book a backup rental car. I did that in Puerto Rico, and thank goodness I did because I booked through a very janky dollar rental car that was off property, and their shuttle stopped coming, and they closed like 3 minutes after my plane landed, so I couldn't get there. Shame on you, dollar in San Juan, Puerto Rico. But fortunately, I think it was National was still open an extra hour, and they were right there, like across the street from the airport. So more expensive, but I went with my backup rental car in that situation. PDX says, my strategy with Rove would be transferred to Lufthansa Miles and More. No other main programs transfer there. Yeah, do you have like a redemption you know of that would be awesome? Because that's a good thought process. We're going to end with about 69 people on board. Here's your last chance to drop a super chat, super sticker, or join as a member, or a tip jar tip, and just support the channel in a very general sense. But I'm going to read off everyone who gave support. Over on the tip jar, we have Juan from MIA and an anonymous tipper who dropped $3 each. Thank you very much. Kevin P. joined as a new member. Mike Newland gifted 20 memberships. Tom Graber gifted 1 membership. Mike Newland turned around and gave a $1.49 super sticker. Ayama Kareem gave $2. George Rommel gave $2.99. Thank you both. QC Man gifted a membership. Thank you. QC Man also celebrates 23 months of membership coming up real soon here on 2 years. LN330 dropped the $1.49 super sticker, and Down on a Mission celebrated 14 months of membership. I really appreciate all of you, especially those of you who have committed to a channel membership for more than a year. Thank you so much. Last chance to mention, Dugroz Reports membership is called Dugroz Die Hard, $3 a month, cancel anytime. Click the join button, check out my mattress links. And if you're watching this after the fact, you can still drop a super, I think they call it a super gift or something like that. Just click the 3 dots to the right of the thumbs up button. You'll find it on there. And remember to list your favorite cheap hotel stay if you're watching this after the fact. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. I really, really appreciate it. As Cesar says, hit the thumbs up button your way out the door. Otherwise, may your spending be frugal and may your points be plenteous. Thanks, everyone. Have a good one.